everybody, welcome to the Pagan Perspective. My name is Angel and I am your Wednesday host, and this week we're talking about highly sensitive people. Now, I made a lot of notes here, but I've tried to record this video several times and it's like 25 minutes, so I'm going to have to cut a lot of information out. I will put information down below so you can look it up yourself if you would like, and I'll touch on some of it and we'll have to just go from there. Okay, so the gal that wrote in had 3 questions. She also noted a website of a doctor and a video of her experience as being a highly sensitive person. So the question, or the lead-in, last year I found out I was a highly sensitive person. I've also noticed that many of my pagan and spiritual friends are highly sensitive, more or less. Okay. First question, are you familiar with the term? I thought I was, but doing research, now I realize I wasn't as much, and now I am, so that's great. Second question, do you think you are highly sensitive, and are people you know? I think I'm more sensitive than my non-pagan friends, but I'm not as sensitive as many of my pagan friends. And yes, I know highly sensitive people, and most of them, I would say 85% of them, are pagan. Now, this third question is what got me doing a lot of research, and I'll explain why. Do you think there is a connection with this great amount of highly sensitive people that are drawn to paganism and earth-based spirituality? Because I like statistics and figures and percentages and all that kind of thing, I was trying to find a study that overlapped paganism with highly sensitive people. I could not find one. If you do find one, please put it down below. That would be really helpful, but I scoured and I couldn't find anything. What I did find was studies on pagans and studies on highly sensitive people. Now, the pagan studies are very broad and very minimal. The studies done on highly sensitive people are a lot more vast. And one of the studies that's noted by the person who asked the question is from Dr. Elaine Aron. I think I'm saying that right. She began researching highly sensitive people in 1991. And what she found is that 15 to 20% of the world population is highly sensitive. And 70% of the highly sensitive people are introverts, which makes complete sense. Introverted and or shy people. And I say and or because some people who are shy don't consider themselves introverted, and vice versa, which I found really interesting. They respond differently to physical and emotional stimuli than other people. Now, according to a study in 2010, 20% of the population is highly sensitive, and in 2010 the population was estimated at the world population was estimated at 6.884 billion people. That would mean 1.0326 to 1.3768 billion people in the world are highly sensitive. I was surprised that number was so high, to be honest with you. When you look around at at all of the horrible things going on in the world, you think, how can people be highly sensitive? You would think it would be a lot less, but that was 2010. If 70% of the highly sensitive people are introverts, then that would be no. I didn't do the figure on that. Sorry. So, according to this website called New World Encyclopedia, paganism in the United States accounts for roughly a third of all neo-pagans in the world, and 0.2% of the U.S. population. And let's see, the U.S. population in 2016 is estimated at 322,762,018 people. And if neo-paganism accounts for 0.2%, then 645,524 people classify themselves as pagan. Now, admittedly, this is a broad term because it's all estimated. it's all estimated off of the estimated United States population. So ultimately, I couldn't find any figures that overlapped, but looking at these different figures, I would say that 15 to 20% of pagans are highly sensitive, according to, if you look at all these figures, which I will put down below. But in my experience, it's more like 75 to 80% of pagans are highly sensitive. Now, there's a lot of different questions in here, and to see if you're highly sensitive and if you're not, and I went through them and I found that I don't meet all these criteria, but I also found that not all pagans do. So because this is not based off paganism, it's just based on off of talking to people who are highly sensitive, I'm going to go through these really quickly and see if I feel I have experienced these being primarily my pagan friends or not. Okay, highly sensitive people feel deeply. Yes. And, yes, and pagans, they feel deeply. One of the hallmark characteristics of highly sensitive people is the ability to feel deeply, like to process things on a very deep level. Now, Ted Zeff, he's a PhD and author of the Highly Sensitive Person's Survival Guide, states this to post. Now, I think that pagans do think on a very deep level. They're always trying to find a deeper meaning and symbolism and everything from tarot to dreams and looking for deeper meaning in nature. So I think that is very much a pagan characteristic as well as a highly sensitive person. Highly sensitive people are emotionally reactive. They will have empathy and feel more concern for a friend's problems. My experience is pagans do that. If they care about you. If they don't, I think it has to do with the fact that they are very introverted. If their empathy is on high, being connected to people is very difficult, so that might be one of the reasons why I have not experienced people being, I haven't experienced all pagans being that empathetic. So I would say that's probably a pagan characteristic as well. They're probably used to hearing, don't take things so personally, and why are you so sensitive? Now, this part I'm going to read is really interesting. Depending on the culture, sensitivity can be perceived as an asset or a negative trait. Ted Zeff explains. In some of his own research, Ted says that highly sensitive men he has interviewed from other countries, such as Thailand and India, were rarely or never teased, while highly sensitive people, or men, he interviewed from North America were frequently or always teased. So it's also a cultural thing. Now, in my experience, I have heard, don't take things so personally my entire life, and it's exhaustingly annoying. Now, to be fair, when I was young, I took everything seriously, or personally, so I could totally see that. But as an adult, I don't see that at all. And in my experience, it is the majority of the time it comes from people in the pagan community. I'm very blunt, I'm very to the point, and things are very black and white for me a lot of the time. And I may not agree with you on something, but if I'm blunt, it's not because I'm taking it personally, it's because we need to keep the conversation moving. We have things to do or whatever. This happened to me recently where somebody said I shouldn't take things personally. I wasn't taking things personally, but, clearly they could read between Facebook messaging to see that I taking things personally. But they're also pagan. And personally, I think that they just didn't like what I was saying. That seems to be the case every time with pagans, in my opinion. When it's outside the pagan community, I really don't get that response at all. People tend to be very comfortable with my directness. So, in my opinion, I think that pagans tend to take things very personally, and they will accuse people of taking things personally because they're not okay with what is being said or how something in a situation is being handled. That's not all pagans, but I will say that is very much a pagan trait that I've noticed in people. This is highly sensitive people prefer to exercise alone. I don't really think this is associated with pagans. Pagans who are even on a specific solitary journey will occasionally do things with groups, and they have no problem going on hikes with people. They have no problem with doing things in groups outside of spirituality, so I really don't think that that's necessarily a pagan trait. It takes longer for them to make decisions. Highly sensitive people are more aware of subtleties and details, and making decisions becomes harder. I think this is 50-50. I know some pagans that are very decisive, and I know some that are not. And they may not want to make the wrong decision, but people generally don't want to make the wrong decision if they're trying to make the right decision. So I think that this could be 50-50. They're more upset if they make bad or wrong decisions. Highly sensitive people are. I do think that that also is 50-50. Some people in the pagan community will go, I messed up, and some people will beat themselves up. So I think that's a 50-50 thing too. They're extremely detail oriented. Now, detail oriented for highly sensitive people is a different definition. They notice details in a room. They, what somebody's wearing, the change in weather. My corporate background teaches me that detail-oriented people, they take notes, they're very organized, they meet deadlines. That's definitely not pagan. But if you're talking about what they are talking up here, I will say that pagans can tend to be very, very perceptive and very detailed directed. They will see things that other people don't see, but I also think that that's because they look beyond things a lot of the time. They look deeper. So I will say that's a pagan trait. Not all highly sensitive people are introverts, and not all pagans are. So that I would say is pretty accurate too. They work well in team environments. I think some pagans do. I think generally pagans try to work well in team environments. Not all do. I'll just say that. Not all do. But most try to. I think most pagans really look for the bigger picture. They look for the community. They look for the unity, the energy connection. So I will say that that is probably a pagan trait as well as a highly sensitive. Let's see. They're more prone to anxiety and depression. I think that definitely is a pagan trait, because if you are somebody who, and I believe most pagans are highly sensitive people, they think deeper, they feel more empathy. Of course they are going to have anxiety. Of course they're going to have depression, especially when they see something that affects them so deeply. It could be a movie or the news or whatever. So I think that is definitely a characteristic of pagan and highly sensitive people. That annoying sound is probably significantly more annoying to a highly sensitive person. While it is hard to say anyone is a fan of annoying noises, highly sensitive people are on a whole more sensitive to chaos and noise. On a whole, are sensitive to chaos and noise. I don't think pagans are. I really don't think I think they are highly sensitive, but I think that they could take a lot of chaos and noise, to be honest with you. I don't know that that's necessarily a pagan trait. Violent movies are the worst. I avoid violent movies. I can't stand to watch them. They really mess me up psychologically. But I do know pagans that like to go watch scary movies all the time. So I don't know that that's necessarily a pagan trait for highly sensitive pagans. They cry more easily. Definitely. I definitely think that that is pagan and highly sensitive. I think those are definitely overlap. They have above average manners. No, I don't think that is, I really don't think that that is necessarily a pagan trait, even if they're highly sensitive. I know it goes by saying that they don't want to offend people and that sort of thing, but I don't think in the world today, even in highly sensitive people I've met, they have the best manners. I really don't agree with that at all. I did live in the South, though, so, the manners there are beaten into you. The effects of criticism are especially amplified. Yeah. I think highly sensitive people cannot take any criticism. They really can't. Even if it's constructive, they beat the heck out of themselves. Pagans do, so I definitely think that that is a pagan trait. But going through all these, I don't think that all pagans meet these. I don't think they necessarily need to be considered a highly sensitive person. I don't necessarily meet all these traits at all. Probably most of them I don't. Maybe not most, but I still consider myself a sensitive person, you know. Anyways, that's all my information. At the end of the day, I would say that more people are drawn to paganism that are highly sensitive because it is, one, more accepting. It's a culture that is very accepting. I would say more accepting than other maybe religions or environments. So I think people are drawn because they're accepted. I think that highly sensitive people who look for deeper meaning and deeper thought processes will be pulled towards paganism because paganism really supports that. It's kind of our thing, you know. Think deep, look for the symbols, look for the, the information out there, meditate, astral travel. I mean, all of that stuff. So it really kind of plays to that, the strength of a highly sensitive person, that deep thinking. So at the end of the day, yeah, I think most pagans are drawn to, or most highly sensitive people are drawn to paganism because it resonates with them on a pretty cellular level. And the percentage, I think, is really high. And that's my opinion. So, anyways, thank you for listening me ramble on for a while. I'll put all the information down below with links and all that kind of jazz so you guys can read this stuff yourself if you want to. I find it really interesting. I really didn't know, I mean, people do studies on everything, but I really didn't realize that there were so many studies in depth done on highly sensitive people and that there were so many. So that's really cool. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. As always, likes are awesome, and I'll see you guys, I think the week after next is the end of the month, subs week. I believe so. So I'll see y'all the week after next. Alright, have a great rest of the week and blessed be.